Hello everyone, welcome to Web Development Tutorial for Beginners video 9, CSS video 5. In this video we're going to talk about the CSS grid layout, and I'm going to teach you guys how to build a grid, and that'll help us format what a true web page will look like. And so after this video we're going to go ahead and go in and create a traditional web page, not something that is more like a cheat sheet what we have here, but we'll start making things that look nice and like a formal professional website. So I hope you guys are ready to get going. So we're going to jump right into starting to design our grid. And so if we go into our CSS and do .grid, we can start off by display grid, and then we can say our grid template columns, and there's a few different ways you can do it. So we can do 50 pixels by 200 pixels by 50 pixels, and that, as you might guess, would make 3 columns, one 50 pixels wide, one 200 pixels wide, and another one 50 pixels wide, so a total of 300 pixels. So probably not across the whole screen. Grid template rows, then we could make 100, 50, and 100, and this is just so we can kind of get it on the page and take a look at what it looks like. And then we can have a dot header, and so this would go across the top part of your screen, so you know that that's going to be the first one. And we're going to go ahead and give this a color, just so we can kind of take a look more at what our grid actually looks like. It won't be visible if it's doesn't have a color. So if we make it pink, so we'll do grid column, and we're going to have that at 1, -1, and I'll talk about that here in a second once we have some of these show up. Grid row, we want it to go from 1 to 3. We would need to add the grid in and add the header, and these can be added in at the bottom. So let's give a couple line breaks for the href down at the bottom, but then let's do div, and we will do class equals grid, and then div class equals, so inside of that we can do header. So now we need to have something header inside of there, so that should print in the place we want it on our grid. So if I hit Control S and save that, actually I'm going to do a couple line breaks just to give some space. Control S, Control R. And if I scroll down to the bottom here, we have a pink box that goes all the way across our 300 pixels. And let's go ahead and create another one so we can kind of see the comparison here. So we can do a dot menu, background color yellow, grid row 1, 3, Control S, div class equals menu, Control S, Control R. So now we don't have kind of an end, so our menu extends forever, and we don't necessarily want that. So if we go into our menu, so we do the column and say grid column is 2, -1. It will be in the second slot, and it will go all the way, the -1, makes it so that it goes all the way to the edge of the grid columns that have been created. So now you can kind of tell that the header is in the first spot, and the header actually goes from 1 to -1, which this means that it just goes all the way to the end here. So it goes all the way through, the pink does as well. But because we have the menu get created second, it goes on top of it, and it goes from 2, which is 50 pixels over, so it starts right there, and it has the 200 and then another 50. So if we changed menu, if we changed grid column to 3, it would be the same, but in actuality the header would not extend all the way through here. It would stop where it's supposed to, right here at the edge. And so the menu is not on top of it anymore. They're just right next to each other in the correct spots. Because if I changed column here to 3, the menu would be in the 3rd spot, and the column would go from 1 to 1. So that it goes from 1, it went from 1 to 3, so it did stay underneath it there. But if you go from 1 to 1, it leaves this space in here, and you can see the grid, the row goes all the way down to the bottom. So if I change the header row to 1, 1, it would be really close up in the upper left. Control R. But since this row is 100 pixels, it goes down pretty far there. So now if I changed the row to 20, you can see that the header is about 20 pixels tall because it's at the 1 in the row and the column is at the 1, and it goes just to 1, so it's only in the 1, 1 spot. And you can see that the menu goes from 1 to 3 rows, and it starts at column 3 and it goes to the edge, and this one starts at column 1 and goes to 1. And so if we continue and made a dot content, and let's say we wanted that in the middle, we could have the background color is gray, and have it be a grid column. Think about where would this spot, if it started right here, where would it start, and then what would we need to put to see where it ended. So try to think about that, try to do that on your own. If you didn't figure it out, it would be at 2, and we could have it go all the way to the end and use -1, or we could go to the correct number here, which would be 2, 2, because the width of the second column is right there. And so if you guess 2, 2, and then you add that in as div class equals content, you have the content extending all the way across. You don't say what the rows are. So if you want your grid row to be 1 to -1, that would extend it all the way down. So we can test that, and now the content extends all the way down. So we can have a header. We can make our header extend all the way across. Change it to -1, but these get pushed on top, so we would need to change this to row 2 for the menu. And now you can see the header underneath it extends all the way across to there. Content, let's extend that to row 2. Control S. Okay, so now the header goes all the way across. Maybe we want the menu actually to be at column 1. So the menu is right there, and maybe it goes to the other side, maybe it doesn't, so we could go all the way to 2. and maybe we want it to extend all the way down. And so you can see how I'm manipulating that a little bit as we go, and I do want you to test it, and I wanted to make a point of you practicing setting this up. And this is more what I would look for, in the sense that here you can navigate between web pages, and then maybe along the side here you can navigate between specific tabs along that web page. And so if I wanted to go to a certain vocabulary term in the content that's halfway down the screen, I could click on a button and it would take me down. If I wanted to go to a completely new section or a new course, you could use the header, and then you can start building it from there. Okay, and so and then at the end maybe you have a footer that you have on the last line. Grid column would be, let's see, it would be all the way across, probably. And grid row, though, would be 3 to the bottom. And so footer, if we added a footer in there, div class equals footer, you could have that on the bottom, and now the bottom row is 100 pixels currently, so that might be a little bit large. This might be more what we're looking for our footer. And maybe we want to do it 30 pixels. Okay, so now you have a header, menu, content, footer. You can change these numbers by pixels. There's other things that we can do. So if we wanted it to extend a certain percentage across the screen, we could do 15%. We could do 60%, leaving us 25%. Let's see what that looks like for us. Control S, Control R. So you can see that that extends. You can see that the menu grows as it grows wider. We don't have anything in that third column right along here to compare. We could also give it a margin of 20, and then see what that looks like. So that would give us a little bit better of a look at how that can be changed. There's also, if you want to make a lot of rows, there is a function that you can use, and it is you can see it right there, repeat. And so we could make, let's say we want to make 12 rows at 30 pixels each. Instead of having to do 12 different numbers there, or 12 percentages, you could do 12 different things. And you can see that since footer goes from 3 all the way to the bottom, that's going to extend and make the footer quite a bit larger. But this could be all the way to 12. And then you see that the menu, and this is more what we're looking for in what we'd like our website to kind of be designed like as we go into the next thing. So I encourage you guys to spend a moment to kind of test and move these things around and try some different things and compare what looks good and what doesn't. But that is what we are going to go into, and we're going to go after this. We're going to go ahead and create our own personal website, and so you can start that setup and trying to do that on your own, and then follow along with me if you have any questions. So that is it for video 9, CSS 5 on grid layouts. I think this is a very important lesson, and I think you need to really make sure you take some time experimenting with that grid. It'll help you understand the locations of where things can go and an easier way to format your website. So I hope you guys enjoyed. And if you felt like this video was helpful, I always appreciate a like and subscribe. Don't forget to click the bell so you don't miss the next episode.